Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast covering Ipswich Town since 2015. I'm Richard Woodward and you're tuning to the Prematch show in partnership with our friends at the Greyhound pub in Ipswich. This is the Gillingham at Home edition, and joining me to talk about that and plenty more is Joe Fairs. And Joe, I think this might be your Prematch show debut, as weird as that sounds. How are you, by the way?
Yeah, I'm good, and it is my Prematch show debut. I've been gagging to get on to deliver some Room 101s, but haven't had the nod so far, and now I've missed out.
No, don't worry. We'll bring it back for you. We'll do maybe we'll have a pile-on episode and let everyone have Room 101 and the Room 101 to rule them all. Looking resplendent, I have to say. Is that a 1920 goalkeeper jersey?
Yes, it is a green one. I assumed we wore it when we played Gillingham that year, but I did actually just watch the video back and we didn't. So
damn it,
who knows? But there was an attempt to sort of try and fit in, but it didn't work.
No, well, that's okay. Well, we appreciate that any football shirt going on is good with us, it's the shirt where they figured out the magical Vegas logo needs to be in monochrome rather than colour as well. So they learned their lesson from the awful 1819 shirt. Let's do some bits and pieces of news. And worth talking about the end of the transfer window. You were watching from afar on the pre-match show on Wednesday night and chipping in. Do you want to give us, what was your score again out of 10 for the transfer window?
I didn't actually give one, but I'd say sort of 6, 7 out of 10, average really. I don't think anyone could say it's a brilliant window, and I don't think anyone could say it's a poor window. I think we got some good business done, and listening to sort of Kieren McCarthy's quotes today, he's talking about how we felt the squad was too big and it was hard to manage, and that there was sort of players here that weren't getting involved. We didn't put an offer in apparently for Jay Matete. We were happy with what we had, and when you see that we've effectively got Kenlock, Enciala, Nolan, Fraser, Harper out the door, whether it's, and obviously Holy, and I'm sure there's a couple of others I'm forgetting, but players that just weren't getting close to the 18 that we've got available. And I think we're down to we've gone down from about 27 outfield players to 22, and that does feel much more manageable as a squad. When Cook came in last year, he said the squad was too big, and then really it ended up back in exactly the same position after the first window. So it is good that we have trimmed that down a bit, and I think that was what was needed.
And some interesting quotes from McKenna on the day of recording, which is Thursday, around Scott Fraser and Tyree Simpson. Your reflections on those?
Yeah, Scott Fraser. He's basically said that Fraser wanted to be the main man here, and it was him pushing for the move. And sort of on the TWT message board earlier, Phil Ham said the reason it seemed like it was him pushing for the move because all the stories were being released in the Scottish press, why is sort of Swansea being linked with an Ipswich midfielder being released in the Scottish press when he's not even an international, I don't think, up there. And I guess that's where his agent was, and that's where they were able to get their stories out. But I think some people have take that in a way like, he didn't want to stay and fight for his place, he wanted out. But for me, the move hadn't worked for him, and I don't see a route to him getting enough games over by the end of the season for it to work for him. And yeah, like I say, we've all seen some flashes of quality from him. I don't think I've seen enough from him personally to worry about losing him. And like I say, if he goes on and does well at Charlton, I don't think any Ipswich fan would be surprised. And I don't think any Ipswich fan would have been surprised had he stayed here and eventually done well here. But it's just one of those where the move hadn't worked out. We signed him quite early on. Then all of a sudden it followed Aluko and Celino,
yeah.
And Chaplin all followed. And maybe these were players we didn't think we'd get. And there's just sort of no role in the team for him there. And sort of the other interesting one, which has been sort of something in the transfer window, which maybe it hasn't been handled best, we don't really know, but it's Tyree Simpson being brought back from Swindon because there's a contractual issue, and now he still hasn't signed a contract for whatever reason, and he's basically not really going to be involved. It said he's trained with the first team a couple of times, and he's trained with the under-23s, and he's going to get some minutes for the under-23s. They've actually got a game at Colchester in the stadium a Friday night, so that is a game that fans can go to if people listen to this on Friday as opposed to Saturday. But yeah, it's a shame for Tyrese. He's gone from sort of playing in League Two to now having to go and play against the League Two side's reserve team. But maybe like I say, hopefully he can rip it up in the under-23s and get involved with the first team here, because I think we've seen some really good stuff from him over the last few months at Swindon, and there's not many teenagers that get out and score sort of double figures of goals in half a season in League Two. It really is almost unheard of, and it's really important that we get him tied down, and hopefully he can play a part here, because he does look a real sort of difference maker.
Yeah, and dare I say, if playoffs start to drift away from us, there will be opportunities for players to stake a claim for next season, won't they? Who are maybe on the fringes at the moment. You know, we're talking about Joe Piggott. We'll talk more about him shortly as well, I'm sure.
And there's also the option for sort of non-league loans. I know that's a lower level than what he's been at with Swindon, but when you see like your sort of Wrexham, Stockport's, Chesterfield, the amount of money they're chucking about trying to get promoted, maybe if he can't make a breakthrough here, he may get a chance at one of those clubs to get some more games. And I know it's a little bit of a backward step, but it's probably playing in the National League is going to be better than playing in the under-23s. Yep.
Well, we'll see, and it'll be interesting to see the lineup on Saturday, but we'll talk about that and whether he's involved there. But it's probably not. If he's playing at Collier on Friday, then it's not happening, is it? So we'll keep a lookout for him. We've got some two pre-record now bits of pieces of news. We'll speak to Kieren Standley from ITFC Women after their excellent cup win at Newcastle and the next round draw and a game against MK Dons on Sunday. And Francine from Rainbow Tractors, who are getting involved in the Football versus Homophobia campaign and are down at Portman Road on Saturday in the fan zone. So let's head over and speak to them. Welcome back to Francine from Rainbow Tractors, who is here to tell us, well, it's always good to chat, but you are here with a mission and a purpose and some exciting events happening over the next few days for Football v Homophobia, which runs for the whole of February. Tell us all about it.
So Football versus Homophobia is a completely separate group from the Rainbow Laces, which is Stonewall. So this is a group who work with football clubs specifically in order to get homophobia out of football. They've got their awards month this month as well. So there's been some groups and some clubs, professional clubs, nominated for their work they do. So it's just all about working with football clubs and raising awareness to kick homophobia out of football and make football more inclusive.
And I think I did a little bit of research beforehand, and I think there's a link between this campaign and the Justin campaign as well, related to Justin Fashion, obviously. And as a club and unfortunately as a fan base, we've got some unfortunate history there. So that brings to me kind of the sharp focus of why we need to kind of do these things.
Definitely those chants, and it's not just that chant in particular that has unfortunately been heard this season, but it's the ones that directed at even Chelsea players and things this season as well. This year's focus is all about language as well. So it's thinking about what words we shouldn't be shouting onto the pitch, and why, particularly when it comes to the younger generations, why saying that's so gay in a negative way is not okay, because obviously putting negative connotations to being gay can cause people some quite discomfort and upset. So the focus this year is all about raising awareness of the language that we use and educating people on maybe the origins of what they're saying and why it's not okay.
Yeah, and we've talked before about making Portman Road a place where everyone is welcome, and as you say, that kind of education thing is largely because a lot of people listening to this will have let something out subconsciously and maybe not even consider the consequences of it. So we can all use some education on this kind of stuff. And Rainbow Tractors, you guys have got sounds like some really exciting stuff happening over the weekend, and you can't reveal who, but an ambassador hopefully to be announced after
Yes.
this show has come out. So we can't.
Yes, our first official player ambassador is going to be announced.
That's exciting.
Yes, very exciting. I've been pushing for it for a while and now got there. So hopefully the first of some ambassadors and support from both the men's and the women's team.
Fantastic. And you'll be at Portman Road on Saturday as well.
Yes,
well, obviously you're always at Portman Road.
I'm always at Portman Road.
Sorry. Yeah.
I wasn't at the Accrington game actually. I was in London that day. My mum booked.
I wasn't taking you're a teacher as well. I wasn't taking a second class.
I normally am at the game, but my mum booked tickets to the theatre instead that day. Didn't check. Didn't check the fixture list. I'm going to be in the fan zone before the game, and again I'm going to have got rainbow laces. I've got the t-shirts and I've got our pin badges as well.
Brilliant.
Which I'll be selling. Pin badges and laces are free, but donations are accepted and appreciated. And I'm happy to answer questions as well. Any questions people have about the campaign, about the group, how they can get involved. Happy to stand there and answer any questions people have. And I'll just say that all money raised from our merchandise is going towards future merchandise, and I'm hoping to have some new merchandise out soon.
I've seen some t-shirts and stuff like that, and
we've got t-shirts and pin badges at the moment because I got them for free through the Football Supporters Association. They funded that, so all future merchandise is going to come through sales raised. I'm also hoping to have something to auction off, a couple of things to auction off soon as well. So that's a bit more of another teaser. To see.
We're not trusted to reveal things, reveal the player identity. But I like the teasers, and we'll direct people. Where can they find more information?
On our Twitter, Instagram, and our Facebook, which is at Rainbow Tractors. And you can also email us, which is rainbowtractors21@gmail.com.
rainbowtractors21@gmail.com.
Yes.
And
I'm happy to
Rainbow
answer.
Tractors on Twitter. Yeah. And we'll do some retweeting as well from the Blue Monday account as well. So brilliant stuff. And at the fan zone, no chance of a guest appearance maybe at the Greyhound. I know that's a regular pre-match haunt.
Not this time, because I've got to be in the fan zone from 12. I am hoping to have another pre-match social at the Greyhound in a couple of weeks. It's just working out which game is best for that. And hopefully we can get some of the other groups involved as well, of opposition fans.
Great.
Say hello.
Yeah, friendly rival. That's what we want.
Yes.
Fantastic. So keep a lookout on Rainbow Tractors at Rainbow Tractors Twitter on Friday, just after this has come out, for the actual reveal of the player ambassador, which we're super excited about. It sounds like more planned there as well. Other people involved in the club too, and obviously you can give Francine and the group your support as well. Follow, buy some merch, go and say hi in the fan zone. Brilliant. Anything else? Any other secrets or any other teasers you want to do?
No, not that I can think of.
No. Okay. We're always welcome to be your platform for secret reveals. We always like the excitement. But for now, Francine, thank you so much, and good luck for Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Joining us from ITFC Women is Kieren Standley. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, hello, Rich. Doing well, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me back on the podcast. Good weekend away in Newcastle.
Yes,
but it's nice to be back down in Suffolk after spending the weekend in the far north of the country.
Yeah, up in the cold, and I'm sure all business as well. You don't go to Newcastle for a night out or anything like that, but a professional display, a clean sheet, a goal for Lucy O'Brien, who we obviously give our full backing. We give everyone our full backing, but obviously we look out for Lucy just as much as we look out for Laffy. And a real great cup tie, a great outcome for Ipswich, because Newcastle, as we talked about before, going really great guns in their division.
Yeah, it was a really tough game, and we always knew it was going to be a tough game, regardless of Newcastle being a division below us. As you mentioned, they're flying in that league, and and they made it really, really difficult for us. I mean, there wasn't really an awful lot of shots in the game. It was very, very cagey, very well fought, a real, real tough battle. And particularly the last 15 minutes of the game when Newcastle were throwing the kitchen sink at us and there was numerous corners and throw-ins and whatnot. And you had 2,700 rowdy Geordies roaring them on. I mean, it was a new experience for us to be able to deal with that. And I think we did that magnificently well, stayed firm, didn't allow them to get in. So, yeah, that was a real positive for us. But yeah, as you mentioned, a great goal from Lucy O'Brien to win it. One hell of a strike on her left foot, quick shift, whipped it in the top corner. And that's a goal worthy of winning any cup tie. So, yeah, we're delighted with the win. Absolutely buzzing with the experience. I mean, we don't get to play in front of crowds of nearly 3,000 every week. That's the biggest crowd we've ever played in front of. And a massive credit to those town fans that have made the journey up to Newcastle from Sheffield the previous day or from wherever they came from. Some of them may have came from Suffolk as well directly. So, yeah, amazing effort. An away end formed behind the goal with multiple Ipswich flags. And, yeah, I actually sat and watched the game in the stands with Lee O'Neill, who had travelled up to watch the game. And when I first met him at the ground, I obviously brought him for the players' entrance and whatnot. And he was like, "How many town fans have travelled up?" And I was like, "Well, wait until you walk around this corner and you'll see." And he was just like, "Oh my God!" Like, so we're making massive strides. To be 300 miles from home and have that kind of backing is incredible. So yeah, really grateful for that.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And hoping for, I think probably 3,000 might be a stretch for the next round, but we've equaled our furthest progression in the FA Cup, hoping to go one better and a tie against a side we're very familiar with and have beaten this season.
Yeah, I think firstly, like I said to Joe in the pre-match build-up to Newcastle, that I asked him whether this cup run had gone under the radar a little bit, because a couple of years ago, although we played more fixtures in the competition, it was like, oh my God, look at this team, progressing through the cup. They've beaten 3 high division sides, and it hasn't quite been like that this time round, but we've still got to the same stage. And it's kind of like hit us in the face and been like, oh wow, we've done it again, which is amazing. And obviously, the draw on Monday, and we were all listening into TalkSport to see that. And then like when Chelsea came out at home, and we were thinking, oh no, here we go. It was going to be like that. And obviously, the last 2 teams in the hat after us were Arsenal and Liverpool. So that could have been interesting. But yeah, it's Southampton. For me personally, I think it's a little bit dull. It's just because obviously we've played them. Well, we're due to play them twice in the league. Obviously, we played them once, beat them once. They knocked us out of the League Cup. So 4 meetings in one season is a little bit of a damp squib. But obviously provides an excellent opportunity to get through. I think both teams will really fancy their chances having won 1 game each. And to have a 3rd tier team in the quarterfinals would be absolutely incredible. So look, we'll go into that game full of confidence, and hopefully we can break our club record, get to the quarterfinals, and hopefully even further than that.
That'd be great. And lots of debate. I mean, I put a clip out yesterday on Tuesday, a lot of people clamouring for the tie to be played at Portman Road. And then there's lots of logistical reasons why that can't happen, not least the pitch at Portman Road. And we spoke to Joe about that a few weeks ago as well. But a real opportunity and a real hope that people are going to swarm on the Gold Star ground in a few weeks' time, because as Joe was saying in our interview, it's a great day out. The logistics are pretty good in terms of being able to park adjacent or being able to get a train. And obviously Felixstowe's, if you fancy a bit of a pre or post match, Felixstowe's not too bad, is it? So we're hoping that lots of people will turn up on the 27th, won't we? Yeah, absolutely. Look, I can fully understand the calls for Portman Road. As you've seen in the Women's FA Cup over the last couple of rounds, there have been a lot of games that have been at stadiums. Obviously, we just played at a rugby stadium, and although it wasn't a football league or a Premier League ground, it was really good. So I completely understand that, and the time will come where we will take to Portman Road and play a fixture, but I don't know. For me, I feel like this one is less appealing. I feel like if we were given the choice between playing this game at Portman Road or the Southampton League game later in the season, we'd choose the league game. So that's my personal opinion. It's just that's way more important. So
yeah, for me, I think this is a great opportunity to pack out Felixstowe and get into four figures. The last time we played Southampton there, I think it was 619 we had through the door. So I don't see any reason why we couldn't get into four figures. Obviously, the men are away that weekend, I believe, to Morecambe. So, you know, if you're not making the long journey up to the northwest, obviously there's an opportunity to come watch us on the Sunday. And obviously with a place in the quarterfinals on the line, that makes it very appealing. So, yeah, that should be a really, really good game, really good atmosphere. I mean, Newcastle showed what 2,700 people could do in terms of atmosphere on Sunday. So, you know, I'm sure at the Gold Star ground where the crowd are right on top of you, it's really tight and compact. If we get four figures in there, the atmosphere would be phenomenal and it'll be a great day.
Yeah, kicking the advertising or hitting the advertising hoardings. I don't think I should be kicking or advertising, kicking the advertising hoardings, but making noise nevertheless. Much easier, I think, at the Gold Star than it might be at Portman Road. However, we need to say that we do have the league action continues. And last time out, frustration at home to Gillingham, who certainly were very happy with their performance and their 0-0. Frustrating us, I guess, is the aspiration of quite a lot of teams at our level. And I guess MK Dons will be hoping for similar on Sunday. Yeah,
so MK Dons, I think they're 4 points off safety. So they're in a relegation dogfight at the moment with the likes of Cardiff, Plymouth, Keynsham, Chichester. So they're going to be scrapping for their lives. We've played them twice already this season, beat them 3-0 in the league and 2-0 in the FA Cup. But they always make it really difficult. And I think after we beat them in the league earlier in the season, we kind of thought, quite surprised that they're down there, to be honest. But ever since then, you look at their record and they've beaten Hounslow a couple of times, but they've only picked up one more win against another team. So they just struggle to win. They struggle to score goals. So we've got to go there and get the job done. It's as simple as that. You know, obviously we've dropped points on a couple of occasions this year with the draws against Portsmouth and Gillingham. So we need to get this game won. But we know it's not going to be easy because, as I said, MK will be fighting for their lives down there. They'll be desperate to get something off of us. The game was originally due to be played at Stadium MK, but now they've moved it to a little non-league ground. I think it's Wootton Blue Cross FC, which is what they did when they played Southampton. So I think there might be a little bit of it might be trying to gain a little bit of advantage by not playing in a stadium, because obviously big pitch in a stadium, you're more likely to get dominated by a better team that like to dominate the ball. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a
I can use the word.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the word without trying to sound too harsh. But yeah, maybe
I said it.
Gain a competitive advantage for moving it to a non-league ground, scrap it out on a worse pitch. But nevertheless, it'll be a tough game, and we'll go to Wootton and we'll do our best to win the game.
Fingers crossed, yeah. And we were just talking before we started recording, bit of a stretch now until the next home game. The next home game is Southampton, isn't it? But March through to April, as the season kind of draws to a crescendo, there's some big games in there. Obviously, we've mentioned Southampton in the league. But support home and away definitely appreciated. And mention True Blue while we're here. Obviously, probably not a huge amount of interest in that until maybe towards the end of the month for Southampton. But March, April, you can fill your boots with your True Blue membership, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like at the moment, we've got 4 of our next 5 games away from home. There's been quite a lot of fixture changes, but as you mentioned, I think as of mid-March, we've got 5 home games on the bounce. 2 of them are against Oxford and Southampton in the league. So there's a real opportunity to get some real value for money by coming down to them. Obviously, True Blue, minimum of £5 a month. So yeah, you're going to get incredible value for money with 5 home games in a row. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting time. Obviously, it's different having played 4 out of 5 away from home on the bounce and then going into 5 home games, especially when you think that we've just been to Newcastle and we've just been to Keynsham, and yeah, it's a bit of a strange schedule, but yeah, looking forward to having 5 home games in a row. Definitely, that's going to be it's going to be interesting.
Yep. ITFCwomen.co.uk is it for all the details about True Blue?
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic stuff. Kieren, as always, great to chat. Plenty of optimism around the team, and we wish them all the best for Sunday.
No worries. Thanks, Rich.
There you go. Thank you to Kieren. Thank you to Francine. Let's talk about Gillingham, because it's a weird situation here. On this show, we like to do lots of research, and we've got some stats and some research, but frankly, all of this is kind of up in the air because of the sacking of Steve Evans and the appointment of Neil Harris. Any reflections on that kind of situation? Not a surprise, I guess.
No, it wasn't a surprise because, like I say, whether people love or hate Steve Evans, and I think more people fall into the latter category rather than the former, I don't think it can be denied that he is a very good manager at this level. He's done really well at League One and League Two. Even he's done okay in the Championship with a variety of clubs, Rotherham's, Doncasters, Stevenage, I think it was. But he's always done a good job here. You always see a team of his generally punch above their weight, and when you look at the last two seasons, while we've finished 11th and 9th, Gillingham have finished 10th and 10th. And so we've equalled Gillingham over the last 2 years, and their budget is an absolute fraction of what we've done, which is testament to the job Evans has done. But when I saw the performance they put it against us, I said, and by the time we did the pod, he'd already been sacked. But I'd been saying to people on the sort of way home, and they just did not look like a Steve Evans side. You know exactly what you're going to get from him, and it's going to be a bit nasty, but they're going to be hard working, and they're going to run their nuts off, and they're not going to give anything. Where it just felt like we were just playing a disorganised rabble that didn't really seem to have much. I don't know. They didn't seem to be playing for the manager, and it was no surprise to me that he was sacked the next day after that performance. And sort of when you see the results around, maybe he just had given up there. I don't think Paul Scally's the easiest chairman to work for, and it just seemed like he'd come to the end of it. He'd been linking himself with the Stevenage job previously in League Two. He'd been wanting to get out of there, so it's just wasn't a surprise that he went. But I was surprised when they appointed Neil Harris, because I was, like I say, if you think the last time he was in this division, he got Millwall promoted. He kept them up for a couple of years, and then he went to Cardiff, which were a sort of parachute payment, sort of real, not top championship club, but a top end championship team was the last job he got. And now he's dropping down to Gillingham. I know he's from round that way, sort of Kent that way, but very, very surprised they managed to get him there. And I think it's a real coup for them to get him there. But yep. It's almost almost good that they had the midweek game to get the sort of new manager bounce, sort of 7 games defeats in a row or something similar, wasn't it? And then they sort of beat Crewe on Wednesday night, and it's almost, like I say, I'm glad that they've got that one out of the way, because then I say there's not that pressure on them to get that win against us, sort of with the new manager game. No matter whether Harris had a lot to do with that game or not, we don't know, but. Yeah, well, lots of extenuating circumstances we can talk about on that game. Yeah, and I mean, worth talking. Steve Evans was nearing something like 700 games as a manager, which is pretty top going when you think about it. Neil Harris, I was surprised by this. Obviously, one-time Millwall and Cardiff boss, one-time bookings favourite for the Ipswich Town job. There's a sliding doors moment for you right there. But 311 games for Neil Harris as a manager, and an overall win percentage of around 40% is nothing to be sniffed at. And I wonder, Joe, whether there's a kind of a sense from him of getting on the merry-go-round, the managerial merry-go-round, because otherwise, if you're out there in the market for too long, people start looking past you, don't they, for jobs? Yeah, and I haven't looked at to see how long his contract is at Gillingham, but is it just, I don't know, is it something that runs to the end of the season for him? If he can just get in and somehow contrive to keep them up, he sort of does his reputation no harm. But I say this was a team that were losing out to players to Colchester and teams like that in the summer transfer window. There's not a lot of money there, and like I say, when you see where Harris had been working previously at Cardiff, some of the sort of wages they paid, it's a big surprise it's dropped down to them. But I didn't expect an upgrade when they sacked Steve Evans. I thought they'd probably take a cheap option, do something in house, just something to see them through to relegation. So I was really surprised that they've got Neil Harris. I just googled it, 2.5-year deal, and David Livermore joining him as well, which is a good appointment for his backroom team there as well. I mean, Joe has kind of mentioned the Crewe match. We'll talk about that in a second, but we're setting the scene here in respect of where Gillingham find themselves, and it's not drastically dissimilar to when we played them earlier in the year. 23rd in League One, 8 points from safety, having played a game more than the team in 20th, which is AFC Wimbledon. Overall this season, 4 wins, 10 draws, 15 defeats, and a goal difference of negative 27. 23rd in the form table, Joe. All of these kind of things, stack up, and there becomes a point where, regardless of
the situation on Wednesday or Tuesday against Crewe. We'll talk about the away form, by the way, as well, but there's a base of evidence that suggests that they'll struggle against us on Saturday, you have to hope.
Yes, and it's not just that really. When you look at the running we've got to the season, like I say, we've still got an outside shot at the playoffs. I think it is very much an outside shot at the playoffs when you see the teams around it. But we're going to need to get. I think you're going to be looking at 78, 79 points this year. I think to get sixth place, and if we want to do that, that means we need to get 38 points in our last 17 games, which means you've just got to. You can't drop points in games like this, and it's going to be the same when we play Doncaster on Tuesday. You have to get 6 points from these next two games. There's just no excuse not to do so. And I don't know. I think, like I said, we've had sort of a few sort of bit of impetus under McKenna, 2 wins, and it's been 2 wins and a defeat, and we need that. 2 points a game is good. It's brilliant. That would win you the league if you start the season from like that. But that's not where we are. We are chasing the playoffs, and we've got a hell of a lot of work to do. And it's just a simple must-win game tomorrow. And there's no way you can countenance dropping points against Gillingham at home.
And maybe a lot of people feeling down after the Sheffield Wednesday performance. Let's not pretend the Sheffield Wednesday are a mugs, to borrow a Mickism there. There was always the possibility we were going to drop points to Sheffield Wednesday. It's disappointing we didn't get a draw, but the idea that suddenly
it's more that we could have a single shot on target, though, isn't it? It was a very poor performance, really, wasn't it?
I get that, but this is a team that has off days occasionally. But when it comes down to it, and typically at home, we generally turn up. And McKenna will want to regain that form. None of the people involved at the club will want the season to peter out. So, yeah, they'll be looking to get things back on track. Some other bits and pieces on Gillingham the win against Crewe was their first win against anyone since the 19th of October, also 1-0 win. 17 games in between those two victories in League and Cup. That's pretty chunky there. This Crewe win, Joe, we've got some stats here on this. It did feel like it was a narrow margin victory. Darren Drysdale, who we know from Alan Judge wrestling and whatever, pissed off David Artell. And did you see the penalty that they all?
No, I didn't see the penalty. No.
A defender slides in and the ball seems to hit him on the hands and is given as a handball. He was not happy, but 32% possession against 68% possession. That's Gillingham to Crewe. 9 shots to 16.
Yeah, I spoke to a couple of people who were at the game, and they said that sort of Gillingham were the better side in the first half, and the main reason was that Mustafa Carriol, formerly of this parish, was excellent, and he was sort of carried it forward.
He's the most advanced player,
as he was when he was here, and it has been a lot over the last few years. He got injured. He was stretched off before half time, and from that point they lost their thrust. So I can't imagine that if he's been stretched off on Wednesday evening, or was it Tuesday or Wednesday? I can't remember. But if he's been stretched off midweek in the first half, I can't imagine he's going to be fit to play. And like I say, his body's just let him down too many times. But people keep giving him chances because he can be a brilliant player, as he showed for us away at Preston before he had to go off ill that day. So it's a shame for him. But like I say, he's probably not going to be playing tomorrow, and he was their main threat. But even the guy said sort of Crewe were on top in the second half, but without really creating anything. And the biggest chance of the half was Verdane Oliver hit the post with a header. So it's a case that they definitely did enough to win against Crewe, and they're sort of happy to concede possession of the ball, but they are going to miss Mustafa Carriol.
Yeah, and we know that Neil Harris's teams aren't necessarily about the possession. Again, we'll try. Everything we say is caveated by the fact that there's a new manager and things might be chucked up in the air. But you've got some offensive stats, Joe, there from their away form. Do you want to kind of talk us through that? Because again, it doesn't make happy reading for Gillingham.
Yeah, well, like I say, they've had 30 yellow and 3 red cards away from home. Only one team in the division's worse than that. And when you look at the stats, they're big on aerial duels, and that's how they play. They're a basic team that gets the ball from front to back. And Neil Harris, he's not as long ball a manager as others are. I know he has a sort of bit of a reputation for that, but you can't come into a team like this and try and change things too quickly. You've got to take a pragmatic route, which he will have. They're sort of the lowest possession team in the league, the second lowest pass accuracy side in the league. They barely have many shots. they're just a poor side, really. If you look at the stats, there's no stat that you can pick out which makes you worry about playing them. But this is Ipswich, so nothing's ever that simple. But if we've got any hopes of sneaking into that playoffs this year, this is a game you got to turn up and you got to win, and you've got to win comfortably and put on a decent performance.
Yeah. One of my favourite stats you mentioned in there is the pass accuracy of 60% is the second worst in the league. We mentioned this on the previous Gillingham pod. Wickham are still 24th. For anyone who remembers that, I find it crazy that Wickham are in the top 6 with the worst pass accuracy in the division. But hey ho, that's League One for you. XG, for any fans of XG, Gillingham's defensive record away from home, they've got the highest XGA, expected goals against, of anyone in the division, of 1.97, which is pretty stark. I mean, we haven't really talked about the Oxford debacle, which that's quite ahead on that beer, Joe. Go on.
You can still get him.
You can still get him. But yeah, the issues away from home, which is probably more pertinent for us. We've talked about that. And 18 shots typically they concede away from home as well. 20th in the away league table, which is moderately better than their home situation, but only 1 win on the road, 6 draws, 7 defeats. Do you want to talk us through some of the January transfer business, Joe? Any names there that jump out? We obviously knew about Thomas Dixon-Peters from Norwich, who's not really featured for them yet, but a few bits and pieces of business.
Yeah, well, they picked up Ben Thompson from Millwall, who's sort of played under Neil Harris there before, but I don't think he's had a huge amount of football this year, so how fit is he going to be? You don't know, and it was just the loan market really from there. Charlie Kelman's an interesting one. I think he had a loan spell somewhere else earlier this season, but he's a player that scored a lot of goals.
He was at Gillingham until November, and he got them to terminate the loan because he wasn't getting enough game time. And he's come back now that Steve Evans has left.
Okay. Yeah, but he's a player that's done well for QPR under 23s over the years, and he's just sort of a decent player. And then they've sort of got a new keeper on loan, but I don't know if he's one that's coming in to be a first choice, Pontus Dahlberg from Watford, or whether is it whoever Jack Bonham is going to stay in the sticks. I don't know. Yeah,
so they had Jamie Cumming in goal. He was on loan from Chelsea. That loan was terminated, and he's gone to MK Dons.
So he's been moved up effectively.
Yeah, so it's the keeper. Who is it? I've lost my notes now.
Pontus Dahlberg.
Aaron Chapman played against Crewe. He's their senior kind of keeper at Gillingham. But yeah, it'd be weird that Pontus Dahlberg signs from a Premier League club, albeit in name, and then doesn't feature. Any other bits of business there? I mean, outs are interesting, particularly.
Yeah, Kyle Dempsey's the big one, isn't he? He was a regular starter for them, but now he's gone to Bolton for an undisclosed fee. I'd guess his contract was up in the summer, and they just thought we're going to get relegated. We might as well just try and cash in, and get a small fee for him. But I don't know too much about it, to be fair.
And Reece Bennett, he saw the iceberg and he went to Morecambe, which I don't think is a huge amount of a trade up, but maybe he's from that part of the world. John Kindergan to Cole U was a surprise. I mean, he's not done much at Gillingham, but that's a drop down, and he's a solid backup option, isn't he? But
yeah, it's one of those ones. He sort of always defends a difficult game. But then I remember going back to the Papa John's Trophy when we played them at Portman Road, and Elkin Baggett and whoever he was at the back with, I can't remember, sort of dealt with him quite easily. And you thought that's pretty good for a sort of a couple of young players to be dealing with John Akinde. He's a player with bags and bags of Football League experience, and he sort of knows how to rough a defender up. But no, he was out there and fine.
And sorry, I interrupted you by saying it's always a shock when a non-ex-Ipswich player signs for Colu, isn't it? So there you go, no link. As far as we're aware for John Akinde, maybe he had a trial at some point. We try to, I keep caveating to cover our asses. We usually on the pre-match show try to give a formation and a suspected lineup. It's worth mentioning that there was a shift of formation to a 3 at the back from a 4 at the back, which Steve Evans had favoured. A 3-4-1-2, we think, against Crewe. I need to look at whether it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It was midweek. I suspect that might be a temporary situation, but there's a good chance, given they got the victory, that they'll keep with that. They did use a narrow 3 at the back and got thumped 5-1 to Rotherham, but I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it, Joe. And we've talked about the goalkeeper. Do you want to kind of talk us through who else featured on whenever
Well,
it was.
they dropped Jack Tucker into the back three, who's normally plays central, sort of in midfield more than defensively, and he played with Max Emma and Connor Masterson, who's on loan from QPR at the back. But it's just when you look at the bits going forward, you've got Ollie Lee and Stuart O'Keefe in midfield. Again, Stuart O'Keefe is a player was at Ipswich as a very young kid. He's had a decent Football League career, but he's not sort of a player you particularly worry about. And then you've got Chatonda and McKenzie on the flanks. Danny Lloyd, who scored the goal, sort of just behind the strikers, which was Carriol and Charlie Kelman. And so you look at the team, there's not a player in there that you need to worry about, is there? And it's not, I say, without sounding sort of, we're a massive club, but not one of their players would get near our team, is it? And
No.
And that's why you've got to just win this game tomorrow. And I say Ollie Lee's had a decent career. Charlie Kelman's doing okay. Carriol, like how long has he been about for? When was he last good? We're talking like when he was here. You thought he was close to retirement. That was 4 or 5 years ago almost, wasn't it? And
yeah, the last hurrah.
We'll see,
but yeah, I mean,
but big V up front for Dane Oliver.
Yeah, we like him, but he's been absent of late.
He's been injured for a long time, hasn't he? And I think when we played them at Priestfield was his first game back from injury, and he looked a shadow with a player that had bullied us badly when we played them last year, and he got himself a couple of goals against us and sort of got 13-14 in the league and looked a real handful. But he looked a shell of himself, like I say, when we last played them, but the whole team did. But that was his first game back from a long-term injury, so it's hard to sort of criticise too much on that. And I don't know how he's looked since then. He hit the post on Tuesday, it was. So we'll see.
He missed the 2 matches prior to Crewe because his wife, or his partner, gave birth. He's another footballer who had very little to do at the end of the season, seemingly, and his partner in he and his partner, what English words, have welcomed a child. So that's obviously keeping him up late at night. You know all about that, Joe. But yeah, as you say, he's not in peak, peak fitness, and he will inevitably start given the absence of Carriol. And in terms of reserve, there's not a huge amount to get excited about either, as you say. Dan Phillips, worth giving him a shout out after his very petulant performance against us.
Well, I looked up his stats afterwards, didn't he? And he basically has been booked in nearly every game he played. And he'd been sent off earlier in the season for 2 yellows and a red when the yellows, his first yellow was in like the 89th minute, and he managed to get a second one after that. It was a temperament problem, I'd say, with him.
Yeah, he's I think he's came back in and then has been on the bench ever since. So I think maybe they've got a bit sick and tired with him. And as you mentioned, Ollie Lee, Jack Tucker,
Rob Lee's son,
Ryan Jackson is might come in as one of the wide options there, but there's a lack of goals in the wide positions. As you say, there's a lack of attacking threats through the middle. As Stuart O'Keefe is kind of more defensive minded than attacking minded. There's just a lot of burden on the shoulders of the front two in this system, isn't there, that makes you think hopefully we'll have enough to deal with them. And then it's all about us imposing ourselves. Joe, let's talk about how you think we'll line up. Obviously, some news about Lee Evans. He might have a late fitness test, though I suspect that would suggest he won't feature unless we absolutely have to play him. No news of any other setbacks or any other injuries, so it'd be good to get that experience back into the middle, because that pair from last week didn't really work. But hopefully Carroll will be available as well.
Yeah, well, whether you call it sort of 3 at the back or whether it shifts to a 4 at the back, I think you can sort of pretty much say Janoy Donation is either going to be right back or right centre back. Luke Wolfenden is going to start. George Edmondson is going to start, and Dominic Thompson is going to start. So whether that's a back 4 or Wes Burns is in there as a right wing back, all those players are going to start in this game, aren't they? Unless I'll keep an eye on the Labour ward at Ipswich Hospital over the Heath just to see if there's any players getting in there tomorrow, because it does seem to be every Friday one turns up there. And then it's just availability in midfield, isn't it? Sam Morsey's out, so it's going to be 2 from Backinson, Carroll, Evans, and El Mazzuni. I'd imagine that. I think Evans will play. I don't know why. I just think he sounded like he was close last week, so I think he'll get the nod. I think we just missed him in there sort of not having neither him nor Morsey in there. I think you need one of those experienced heads and someone who can move the ball about well. So I think it will be Lee Evans in there. Tom Carroll, I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? That does seem where, without Sam Morsey in there, you do really miss someone with a bit of oomph in there. I think probably Idris El Mazouni is probably best suited to come in for him. But I know he didn't have the best first half last week, but I did think he was the better of the two central midfielders out there. But whether he'll get another chance now, probably not convinced that he will do. And then I don't know. I know there's been a few questions asked of Macaulay Bonne recently, and when he's got one goal in sort of 16, 17 games, maybe he does need a rest. Maybe someone does need to come in, and whether that is James Norwood, maybe Joe Pickett gets a game. I don't know, but we can't, like I say, he's not getting a lot of chances, but he's still working hard. He's still doing what he needs to for the team, but it is difficult to see sort of him going there. So I'd probably be tempted to go with the Bash brothers up front of Bonne and Norwood to get both of them on the pitch, but I do think Norwood, with his goal record recently, is probably sort of edging ahead in the pecking order for me.
You mentioned that you think Dominic Thompson's a definite starter. I guess signing from Brentford on loan possibly makes him that. But Penny is returned from training. KVY is back from his ban. You still think it'll be Thompson?
Yeah, it just hasn't really worked KVY on the left, has it? I think he's done okay, but
I agree with Dave on this.
He basically is our backup right wing back, isn't he? If anything happens to Burns, I think KVY goes that side. And like there's some good things he does, and he's good when we're retaining the ball in sort of tight positions up the pitch. But it is just, I think you do just want your players on their natural sides, and KVY just hasn't quite looked at it at all this season, really. I think he's had some good moments in games, but maybe just not been able to put the whole performances together.
Do you want to give us a prediction, Joe? Scoreline?
I'll go for a 3-0 victory.
Okay.
With a goal from Macaulay Bonne, James Norwood and George Edmondson.
Nice. Okay, I was going to go for a 2. So you see my 2 and you've raised me 1 to get it to 3. So we shall find out what happens on the weekend, and we will of course be back on the Flagship show to talk about it on Sunday, and it will be out Monday. That's Ben back in the host's chair along with Dave and Craig, is it? I think.
No, I think it's me. I think it's me and Dave.
Back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Craig, I think, is taxiing people, isn't he? But you know, this is behind the curtain here. I'm the one that cajoles everyone to set their availability, and then everyone gives their availability, and then I completely forget all about it. So 3 people who at least I think Joe should know out of anyone whether he's on. So Joe will be there, Ben will be there, and I think it's Dave as well. So Blue Monday, ITFC.co.uk for all the information on our shows, where you can listen, where you can watch, where you can follow on Instagram or on Twitter, on Facebook. And if you want to kindly support the channel through donations, which we massively appreciate. A lot of people did that on the pre-match. This is the pre-match show, the live show on Wednesday night, which you can still watch as well. We really appreciate that. So thank you so much for folk who show their support that way, and particularly the folk who do the recurring monthly donations. We really appreciate that. And worth also giving a shout out to our good friends at the Greyhound. A few of us will be there on Saturday pre-match, the ultimate pre-match venue, unless you happen to be at Portman Road for your pre-match situation, as Joe tends to be, which is nice for him. So yeah, head down to
if I wasn't there, I'd be at the Greyhound.
There you go. There's the quote.
Chili cheeseburger and a pint of Ghost Ship.
Get yourself a Danassian dog. Excellent stuff. Have I missed anything in the plugs, Joe?
I don't think so.
Oh, what I can mention is February 16th, which I think is a Wednesday. I want to say it's a Wednesday. Joe Fairs, David Diamond, Rich Woodward, Mark Donaldson of Paul Mariner book, my rock and roll football story life. I think. Have you got a copy of it? Because I've mine somewhere.
Yours is right behind you. I can see.
Yeah, it just says Paul Mariner. There it is. You can just about see it. We'll be doing our first book club podcast. We haven't really figured out the format in any particular detail, but I would say if you've read the book or if you are reading the book, come along, get involved in the conversation. If you've not read the book and want to find out more, you could do much worse than listen to Mark Donaldson, who's already spoken to us before, but we'll drill into the book in more detail. There will be spoilers, obviously, though it's an autobiography, so hopefully the main events of Paul Mariner's life will be known to you. But a really good opportunity to hear from Mark about putting the book together and working with Paul, particularly in his later days.
And if you've not read the book, you've got 2 weeks to get it read before then.
There you go.
So do it, because it's well worth a read. It's a brilliant book, brilliantly done by Mark Donaldson, and just tells a great story of a great guy and a great footballer. And
a great life as well. That's, I think, the big takeaway for me was finding out all about him, and some regrets in there, and certainly some good stories about hanging around in Ipswich in the 70s and 80s. So join us on the February 16th for that. More details on our Twitter and the website on that. Joe, are you ready for your debut on Sliding Doors?
Yeah, I was going to break out with some turn back time there. But...
Here we go. I'll give you some turn back time right now. And this won't mean anything whatsoever to Joe. It will mean something to Seb. I'm back at top of I've not updated the position numbers. That's embarrassing. My Excel skills have failed me. But yeah, Chris Marsden, I think, did the job for me last week. Joe, any thoughts on Seb's UEFA Cup fair play in 02-03 versus Chris Marsden, and Southampton defeating us in 01-02? Your thoughts on...
Well, that Southampton defeat was just such a killer blow, wasn't it? That we should never, ever have got relegated that year. When you look at the games there, 7 wins out of 8 over that Christmas period. We picked up 21 points in 8 games, and it's like, how many teams do that any season in the Premier League? Probably your big teams do it. But And we've managed to contrive to get relegated from that position. And like I said, that Southampton game was such a killer blow, and it was just Chris Messi Marsden waltzing through the defence, and it was just crazy. So I would go with that one.
Good choice, as did the majority of excellent people. So thank you for your votes. I appreciate that. After a long run of losing at Room 101, it's nice to be back in a good winning position. Now, I'm slightly fearful for myself because I'm taking a gamble this week, but I've given Joe the opportunity to pick which era we're dealing with, and we are going with the aforementioned, actually, Mick McCarthy era. I will let you go first, Joe.
Okay, so my sliding doors moment is at the start of the 2016-2017 season, when there's rumours spreading that Daryl Murphy is not going to play in a certain game, that he's already picked his boots up from the training ground, and that he's going up to Newcastle to sign for them. And whilst I don't think we could have stood in the way of that transfer of a 30-odd-year-old for £3 million going to Newcastle to earn a shed load of money, I think it was the right thing to do. But it was the opting not to replace him before the transfer window closed. Oh, it brings back bad memories, that picture, Rich.
Sorry, Joe.
But,
in the tunnel in his very tight-fitting Puma Nike shirt.
Yeah.
Puma Newcastle shirt.
And I just don't think that Mick McCarthy at the time realised how his position was as the manager of Ipswich Town, because we'd obviously had a brilliant 14-15 season where we'd sort of scored 72 goals, finished 6th, 78 points, brilliant season. Then the following season was a little bit after the Lord's Mayor's show, but the sort of big issue was scoring goals. We only scored 53 goals that season. We finished 7th with 69 points, but it was almost a little bit false because we won the last 2 games of the season to put us there. But at the start of, I think the start of March, we had 12 games left that season, and the next 10 games we won 1, drew 6, and lost 3. And we scored, and we were drawn against decent teams in that time, and they weren't all bad results, but we just stopped scoring. And I think that Mick felt by the end of the season, by finishing 7th, he was a little bit bulletproof. He'd done a brilliant job, and the fans loved him. And I think he was starting to lose it a little bit with the fans. So the following season comes up, the start of 2016-17. We start the season well, 1-2, drawn 2, lost 1 from the first 5, 8 points, sitting in a decent position in the league. And then we sell Daryl Murphy, and rather than replace him, he doesn't see that there's enough value in the market. So rather than replace him, he thinks, oh, well, I've got enough credit in the bank, we'll just leave this till next season. And we leave it till next season, but by the time we get there, we finished 16th in the league. We've only scored 48 goals that season. We're never really in danger of going down. We sort of are grinding out enough points. I think there's a bit just before the end of the season where we draw 6 games. We beat Villa 1-0 away from home, draw 6 games in a row after that. But you're drawing against Brighton, Leeds, Norwich, decent sides, but we were just scrapping out points to get there. And by this point, the fans have turned against McCarthy. He doesn't realise it, but the fans have gone. So when we get to the following season and he brings in the replacements, and Martin Waghorn, so Joe Garner's, we start the season well. We win our first 4 games of the season, and we lose at home to Fulham, sort of a unbelievable Championship side, and we get booed off the pitch. And I think maybe at that point the penny drops with Mick that he has lost the fan base. And for me, the time when he lost the fan base was just banking the Murphy money and thinking he's got enough credit in the bank to see him through till the next season. He didn't have that credit in the bank, and he didn't realise that. So I wonder if he'd have done it any differently. But for me, that's where the Mick McCarthy era ended or went wrong.
I wonder whether, I mean, a lot of people are going to be nodding along with that. I wonder, in respect of the reinvestment, whether Marcus Evans has got any blame here as well.
Well, there was talk of, I think it was Connor Washington, but they wanted like 2 million for him, or 2.5 million, but we didn't want to pay that. And I think Jordan Hugill we really pushed for, but couldn't get the deals done. But it was just a case where I don't know. I just think Mick had said to Marcus, "Don't worry, we won't go down this year. We'll wait till there's some more value in the market next year." And there was value. We got Joe Garner and Martin Waghorn for a combined £750,000, which is unbelievable business, bearing in mind. Yeah. But the season was so bad, it was so boring, and maybe had we been worse and got into a proper relegation scrap and been able to fight out of it, the fans might have been a bit more behind it, because it was just boring, wasn't it? It was just boring, drawing every week, just making sure we stayed away from the relegation zone. And we had the sort of brilliant win against Newcastle at the end of the season, where Daryl Murphy ironically scores for Newcastle. And then at that point, we just lose the last 2 games. We just chuck him in away at Rotherham, send the reserves out and lose up there. And I don't know, it just felt that Mick badly misjudged what the fans were thinking at that point, and misjudged how much credit he had in the bank. And then everything that leads on from there. Mick goes, Paul Hurst comes in, and 3 years later we're stuck in mid-table of League One, still not looking like probably going up this year.
So it's interesting you were talking about credit in the bank and that kind of, and phrases like that. It's a good opportunity for me to introduce mine. I'm pushing this even further, and I'm pushing the bounds of credibility here, which is why I think it's a gamble. But the reason why I'm going for it is for the reason you exactly said, is because this event, I think, is the start of the dominoes falling that lead to the appointment of Paul Hurst, which leads to relegation. And it's the F-off at Norwich in celebration of our late winning goal that is then cancelled out with an even later equaliser. The reason I go for this, and I do agree with you that the credit in the bank had been lost before them, is I don't think it was beyond repair. And I do think that if Mick had tried to ingratiate himself a little bit more with the sport, a bit more humility, which I think is obviously not in his wheelhouse, I do think, Marcus Evans, I think, was pretty clear that he wanted to retain Mick McCarthy at the end of that season and would have given him a new deal. And Mick, I think, might have entertained it. But that moment at Norwich, I think, just removed that option from the table, which meant that that we had to recruit a new manager. And I do think, because of the violent reaction to this in the fan base to Mick, I think Marcus Evans felt like he needed to appease us, not only with Mick walking away, which was ultimately his decision at the end when he went after Barnsley, but to then appoint the kind of up and comer and a highly favoured low league manager who's got different ideas, and go for Paul Hurst. And I think that whole ending with Mick telling the supporters to fuck off, which is crap, and apologies for the F-bomb, by the way, I should have warned everyone before that, I think is a really bad, that's a really sad day in the history of our club when the manager does that and then bullshits his way out of it afterwards. But I do think if that hadn't happened, sod's law, we possibly don't, karma, there's no karmic retribution with Tim Close's late equaliser, but maybe we don't end up with Paul Hurst, maybe we don't go down, and that's why I'm going for it. But I do understand why a lot of people might say the balance had already tipped well beyond the point of return before that moment. But I think that sealed the deal and meant that we had no other option. There you go. Thoughts?
I'm probably in the camp that thinks it was sort of too far gone by that stage. There was too much. Like I say, I remember the Fulham game. I was slightly before that, and the Brentford game that followed it. And it was just, there was and a lot of this was McCarthy's fault. And I don't say that to excuse the fans, because I think some of the fans' conduct was totally out of order and not befitting of our club. But I say when we beat Nottingham Forest at home. We beat them at home 4-2. Brilliant performance. Really, really good game to watch. I think Daryl Murphy played for Nottingham Forest that day even as well, just to bring it full circle. But even after the game, rather than sort of McCarthy's press conference is like, I still remember Mick McCarthy, your football is shit. I still remember you don't know what you're doing. And he just couldn't let it lie. And I think his biggest frustration was maybe that he was the lightning rod for all the criticism, and I think he could point to the job he was doing and say, I'm doing a good job because the budget I've got in the league is here and I'm getting us here every year. Like, and I'd said the same, and whilst I agreed it was time for Mick to go, I did say to people, I said, like, you think last season was a bad season when we finished 16th. That's not a bad season. If a team with our budget has a bad season, they get relegated. And lo and behold, the following year under Paul Hurst, we get relegated. We finish below a Bolton side who are in administration and playing the kids. And we are sort of one of the worst sides the Championship's ever seen that
top
season.
10 in Ben's top 10 list.
Just because we have a bad season. When you've got a low budget, the margin for error is very small. And I say it's a failure of the football administration of the club and of the football manager of the club. And I don't know, it was a strange one, but I think we were too far gone, and I don't think we could have. I don't think there was any coming back from Mick from there without the crowds becoming sort of next to nothing. And now we're taking 7,000 to Milton Keynes on a Saturday
exactly
afternoon.
right in League One, and as the words of Harry from Bath are ringing in my ears, owners relegate clubs, and certainly both Joe and my offerings have got definitely a sense of Marcus Evans failing as well in there, as well as negative situations regarding Mick's tenure. But we'll put the vote out on Twitter for you guys, and you can decide. And that's how democracy works. So we shall see how we get on, and and any excuse to play a little bit more aqua as well. That is your lot. Thank you if you made it this far. Thank you to Joe for all of your insight and contribution. And thank you to Kieren Standley, and good luck to ITFC Women against MK Dons on Sunday. Thank you to Francine from Rainbow Tractors. Give them your support. Give them a follow on Twitter. Get involved in Football v Homophobia and go and see her in the fan zone. And as always, give your support to the Greyhound, the best pub in Ipswich, quote from me. There you go. Head down there on Saturday for some pre-match merriment. Joe, once again, thank you. And I will politely let you have the final word. I'm sure you'll be excited about that.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. I don't really know what to say, but Kieran McKenna's Blue and White Army up the league.